we're going to be talking about a way that you can hopefully spend a little less time, a little less money, and have more wildlife, better life in your garden. So I first want to tell you, though, about a little bit about me and why I care about this issue in the first place. So I'm the founder of Wild Cohasset, and our president, Barbara, raise your hand, is in the audience as well. And basically, we are best known, we're an environmental group that works on the South Shore to preserve biodiversity. And so we're best known for removing invasive plants, using volunteers to remove invasive plants. But this is why we do it. Obviously, but what does biodiversity mean? It means better wildlife, better creatures, more life, more of the creatures that we care about that kind of share our world with us. So these are always, I'm obsessed with animals. It's always first and foremost in my mind, birds and animals. And since I have a captive audience, I have to show you, force you to look at my two dogs, who are my two favorite animals. They also want you to stop raking or removing leaves because they're both terrified of leaf blowers. And they also want you to stop vacuuming. They want you to stop using your blender, but that's another story. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about why this is so important now first. So it's kind of getting the bad stuff out of the way first. It's not a good time for the environment, right? It's not a good time for a lot of the creatures that we care most about. 1 in 4 bird species population sort of worldwide has been lost in the past, I'm not good at math, since 1970. And you've probably a lot heard about the Armageddon against insects. Those two things are really related, the bugs and the birds, super related. We'll talk a little bit more about it later. But the net result of this is that a lot of the creatures that we care about are under major stress, and they need us. So little things like this can make a huge difference. So New England, we're losing 65 acres a day of forested land, and we're number 1, unfortunately, in the Northeast for losing farmland at a rate that's faster than, it's double the rate for the rest of the nation even at losing farmland. So this all has a major implications. So what happens when you go from things looking like this to things looking like this? This is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but this does not really do anything for wildlife. It's too manicured, too perfect, not enough of the stuff that nature needs. So I am dedicating this talk to, I was about to say lightning bugs. Maybe that shows my age, or I'm from New Jersey. Is that maybe it's that? That must be it. It's not age. But fireflies. So fireflies are a major reason why I want you to consider leaving at least some of your leaves next fall. So if you're like me, you remember this is what in June in New Jersey, this is what it would look like. Here it's usually about July. This is an actual, it's not AI generated, it's an actual photo of a place in the Smoky Mountains in North Carolina where tourists, just like we get leaf peepers up here, they get lightning bug or firefly peepers down there. But this is not a common thing to see around here anymore, and leaves are one of the reasons. So why are there fewer fireflies, and why has removing leaves become sort of an obsession to us? Same reason, or one among the same reasons, this stuff, grass, okay? So here's the thing, I have plenty of grass in my yard. I don't intend to get rid of all the grass, but our obsession with grass and having perfect grass is one of the reasons why creatures, wildlife, fireflies, why they really are in danger. And what's interesting is that in countries like Bermuda, that's where a lot of our grass is native to, it's not a problem, they can have all the grass they want. In England, most of the lawns are made from native grasses. No problem. But here, because grass is not from here, you got to divert all these resources to keep the grass looking the way you want it to look. Water. So water, you're diverting water that could be for wildlife or for us, and you're also processing it, which is using up a lot of resources, etc. So bad for the earth. This, I get really preachy, I will promise I won't, but what we do in terms of putting stuff on our grass to make it gorgeous, this is literally spreading poison on the grass, and it doesn't immediately go away. It stays for, I think it's 100 years is kind of its half-life. So it really has a repercussion to probably all of our health, definitely bird health. So birds are really smart creatures. The term bird brain is not accurate. They really are smart, but they cannot read. So they land on this. When they're landing on it and it's wet from the stuff, those birds likely will die. And I think they don't die right then. I think if they keeled over right then, we probably would stop doing this. But they later die from the impacts on their liver, on their kidneys, etc. Also, dogs. So I showed you my dogs in the beginning. There was a study that Tufts did about dogs that live in houses where the grass is treated professionally and they're kept off the lawns for the requisite 24 or sometimes 48 hours. They got this type of lymphoma that's fatal 70% more than dogs that live in houses like mine that have ugly looking grass. Just spoiler alert there. And that kind of cancer in dogs is not found in the countries where these chemicals are banned. So I just think it's something to really think about. There are organic alternatives to make grass look nice. But keep in mind also that in the 19th century, in that river there, and rivers all over the Northeast, we used to routinely pour kerosene, masses and masses of kerosene to prevent black flies. So I think everyone thought that was fine. It's kind of the same thing with this right now. So I will get off my soapbox. So why are removing our leaves harmful to different creatures, and kind of who is directly harmed? Because for me, there are plenty of microbial reasons why getting rid of your leaves is bad, but I'm much more moved by the actual little creatures, and hopefully you are as well. So one of the reasons that it's bad is this is like a tornado for little creatures, right? It literally, leaf blowers really are blowing away everything, and they are blowing away the good microbial stuff that you want in your soil too, so it's just something to keep in mind. But they're definitely a problem for these guys. So why? Fireflies only spend 5% of their entire lives like this. 95% is spent under there. So you can imagine getting rid of it and bagging it and putting it to the curb, you're getting rid of future fireflies as well as other things. So what are they doing under there? This is what they look like. Not pretty, I will be honest, but they are doing what a lot of creatures are doing in leaf litter. I still use the term leaf litter. It's really bad because those leaves are really valuable, but they're staying warm because as the leaves decay, causes heat, so it's warmer in there. They're getting moisture for their little bodies, and they're helping your hostas because they're eating tons and tons of slugs and snails. I mean, that does not mean I want all the bugs that are under that leaves to go away. We'll talk about that later because that's sort of the point here. But the fireflies are doing good things if you let them be. Who else is under those leaves? This guy. So this is an eastern box turtle. They used to be everywhere in this area. They're now considered a vulnerable species in terms of being endangered. I don't recommend you pick them up, but this was a naturalist who snapped this picture. So they need leaf litter. Mainly, well, there are a number of reasons. One reason is to hide from predators. So when they're little, everything eats baby turtles. When they're adults, coyotes and birds of prey still can get them. So when they're in that leaf litter, they can hide, they can camouflage themselves, and they're less likely to be picked off by predators. Also, every night, they build a new little nest, in essence. It's called a form. It's like a shallow bit that they sort of dig out of a leafy area, and then they tuck their head and their feet and their tails in, and they are much better camouflaged and kept warm overnight. In the winter, they're using that leaf litter for their version of hibernation. It's called brumation. It's not, I don't know scientifically the difference, but they're a little bit awake. They're just kind of groggy and out of it while they're in there. And they're digging a few inches of the leaf litter, and then they usually do that early enough that more leaves fall on top of them. So it's a really effective camouflage, warmth, great place for them to stay safe until they come out again, usually in April. One thing to know is that they live and spend their whole lives close to where they were born, within 250 yards at most, but usually within 100 yards. So you can imagine that if you live in a neighborhood where everybody is just immaculate at getting rid of the leaves, there are a lot of subdivisions where there are rules. You have to get rid of all your leaves. You can't have any piles of anything. Where do they go? They really don't have a spot to go. So it really is critical to give them some spots in areas where you know they're going to be. So let's talk about some of the things that fly, that rely on leaf litter. These are gorgeous moths. They are nocturnal moths, so it's not like you're going to commonly see them, but they're very large, and they have that feature that a lot of moths and butterflies have developed as an evolutionary advantage. They've got what looks like eyes on them to hopefully scare off, some predator that thought, oh, this is a tasty meal. Now he thinks, oh my God, huge, scary thing. They only live for about 2 weeks as a moth. The rest of the time, they're either a caterpillar on a leaf or they're in their cocoons in your leaf litter. So here's another one, gorgeous, gorgeous moth. And I think everyone thinks butterflies or just loves butterflies and forgets that moths are pretty amazing too. So I always like to show them. This is another nocturnal moth. Here's a shot from the underside so you can see kind of their cute little bodies. And by the way, I don't know if you know, one way to tell the difference between is it a moth or is it a butterfly is how its wings flap. So butterflies like this, moths like this. So they also have that, this is the underside, but they also have those eyes to scare off predators. They are nocturnal. They're a native silk moth to our area. They're big, and they don't eat once they're born. The culmination of their life is to get born, fly around, look for a spouse, mate, lay eggs, that's it, then they die. So they're not eating anything for those 2 weeks that they're having their exciting finale. Okay, so these are some creatures that spend time in your leaf litter that you may actually see because they're daylight creatures. So eastern tiger swallowtails. This swallowtail family of butterflies, there are a bunch of them. And the females of this type are black, equally gorgeous. These are big butterflies. They're amazing. That's not the female. That's another in that same family, but they look really, really similar. I can't tell the difference when they're just sort of fluttering around. But they are they're overwintering as pupae or cocoons in the leaf litter. So basically their caterpillars have eaten their fill of leaves, they drop into the leaf litter, they start spinning stuff around themselves to form this cocoon, and then they overwinter until they come out as those gorgeous butterflies. Oh, probably should have showed you this picture while we were talking about it. But this is kind of the life cycle of a butterfly, same thing for life cycle of a moth. This is one of my favorite creatures, hummingbird moths. We have both daytime and nighttime varieties. The first time I saw one, I thought it was a hummingbird when I was little. And they are slightly smaller. They move exactly like a hummingbird in the same way they can fly upside down, backwards. They hover while they're eating nectar. And it's believed that they are why we believe in fairies, or why people believe in fairies. that the first ones were spotted, people thought, oh, that must be, you know, it's some wild little woodland creature. You can kind of see it, I guess. But this is what they look like when they're in your leaves. So they're in that cocoon, and they are just waiting for their moment to be born and go and help pollinate your flowers, by the way. Okay. Yes?
Can you tell a grub from one of those?
That actually, it's a little bit bigger. Well, they're different size grubs. It almost looks like a hard shell around it. It's not that kind of soft, slimy, grub-like thing. So, but
Sometimes I see them and I think they're bad, but now I see they're not.
no, I think leave them. One grub's not going to kill much, right? Whereas it might be one of those. But I think if you see it in person, it looks quite different from a grub. It doesn't look shiny. It's kind of it looks more like a rolled up cigar or leaf, I'd say, than another type of insect. Okay, so I don't know how many people like bats. I happen to like bats, but I will tell you I did struggle to find a photo that was kind of cute of this particular bat. They're all like, you know, with the fangs and the like. It's not the best. But so eastern red bats, they're not in danger across in the U.S. Their populations are pretty much okay. But in Massachusetts, they're in trouble. And I don't know that anyone knows exactly why, but windmills do. They often collide with windmills. But I love them because they eat every night half their body weight in insects. So half their body, like imagine if that's you, half your body weight in mosquitoes, flies, things like that we don't necessarily love. So they are really helpful little creatures to have out there. Unlike other bats, a lot of other bats hibernate. There are even some that migrate, but these guys don't hibernate at all. This is what they're doing if it's not too cold. They're hanging upside down during the day in these evergreens. And then when it gets really, really cold, this is what happens. They literally drop from where they were hanging onto the hopefully soft leaf litter below. Now, if you saw that, I think you'd probably think it was some dead little creature in your yard, and they are in a state of torpor. They're not responsive. You would likely think they're dead. And those creatures, their body temperature can get down to 23 degrees, and they still survive. It's unbelievable. But what they do, once they've fallen, they put their little wings like this to try to keep themselves warm, and they hang out there until it's warm enough and safe enough for them to head back. Okay, here's another one, an American toad. I happen to love, toads are the ones that live on land, frogs are the ones that are amphibious and spend more time in the water. I'm going to show you this next slide, and I will apologize because I recognize you're not 7 years old, but I recently did a seminar that said you should practice with AI twice a week to keep up with technology. So since it was St. Patrick's Day, I created an Irish toad for you, and you can tell my AI skills, they still need work. Anyway, back to the American toad. So they use, in the same way that fireflies need to get moisture and warmth from the leaves, same deal for the American toad. But it's really important for temperature regulation. When it's cold, they rely on the heat from these decaying leaves to give them a little bit more warmth. And it gives them an amazing hunting ground. When you've got rotting, decaying leaves, you've got this massive hunting ground for the toads because of the insects that are alive in there. So this is what brings me to the bugs. So a lot of people say, I don't want the leaves, and even if you research this online, what are the negatives of not raking? It will talk a lot about bugs. What I will tell you is, we think of bugs, I think, a lot as a nuisance, as what purpose, they don't feel important to us. They're actually really, truly incredible. And it's not just as food for bats, I guess. So how about these guys? Everyone's seen these. These are the little things you lift up your, a container, and suddenly you see zillions of them. They're called pill bugs. You may think they're just kind of creepy, crawly, nasty things. This is what they really are. They are a hazmat team doing environmental cleanup, literally. So they get rid of hard metals or heavy metals in the soil. So lots of our soil has lead from years of car pollution, from back when mostly gas was leaded or diesel gas. We've got lead from the remnants of paint, when lead was in everyone's paint. Cadmium is from a lot of old fertilizers and different kinds of negative soil amendments. Air pollution brings this stuff into our soil. And arsenic, if you've ever put a pressure-treated piece of wood, fence, post in your yard, those are treated with poisons so that nothing's going to want to eat it. And that gets into your soil. So those little pill bugs are cleaning it up. So they're good. They're helping us. Ants. Another one that people are like, I mean, everyone knows, I think, that ants have these amazing civilizations and societies. But I think we sort of think of them really more as a nuisance than anything else. They are responsible for planting up to 40% of New England wildflowers. So they take the seeds, they plant them somewhere else. I don't honestly know why. I presume they think they're going to eat them later, and then they forget or something, or they germinate too quickly. But we would not have a lot of these wildflowers that we love and that pollinators rely on, birds rely on. So they are really doing us a big service. Okay, spiders. I will be honest and say spiders are like, I try really hard to love all creatures. Spiders really creep me out. This helped me. So spiders are incredibly important to hummingbirds. So let me see if I can get this to play. Okay. She will go back again and again to gather spider web and then take it to form natural elastic around the outside of her nest. Keep in mind that nest is literally the size of a thimble. But as she lays eggs and as the babies are born, the nest stretches and it would fall apart if not for the spiders that kindly donated their, or maybe not donated, but their webs were used. Okay, the bottom line of this too, aside from the wildflowers and hummingbird nests, no bugs, no birds. That is flat out the truth. We literally would not have any of the birds that we love without bugs. So this particular bird is known for needing the bugs that are in leaf litter. So it's one that really, really wants you. You'll be much more likely to see them if you have some leaf litter on your property. But this, who knows what this is? It's a baby red-tailed hawk. Okay, so, and it fell out of the nest, but it was fine. They were able to put it back. So do not worry about it. The reason I show this is I think a lot of people think of birds of prey as, apex predators, which they are, hunting little mammals, other birds, fish. When they're babies, they eat bugs. That's what their mom feeds them. So that is their baby food. So again, another reason why you want bugs. To give you a sense of how many you want, how many caterpillars do you think this mom chickadee needed to raise these 5 babies? 9,000, okay? So we're just talking about one brood of birds, 9,000. Again, if you're in a neighborhood where everybody's cleaning up every square inch of their yard and everything is beautiful and immaculate, you're not providing enough for this creature to be able to successfully raise their young. Okay, so if you are hopefully convinced that it's a good idea to leave at least some of your leaves, here are some things to consider. The first thing is, again, because I said leaf blowers are bad, you want to rake. If you're moving leaves, you want to rake instead of leaf blowers. Leaf blowers, as I said, destroy the living stuff that's in the soil, and they also are this bad tornado for creatures. They also are gas-powered mostly, and their emissions are terrible. There's nothing on them to sort of cap their emissions. I think the statistic was that leaf blowers in America give as much emissions to our air as the entire city of Los Angeles each year. So it's significant. So rake, not blow. Second is you want to do this, anything that you're doing with moving these leaves, treating these leaves, it's best to do it when it's dry. And that's so you prevent fungus and all that kind of stuff from where you're going to be moving them to. It's also, the last thing I'll talk about, it also makes it easier. Okay, where do you leave these leaves? And this is where I want to give you some idea, because I think a lot of people are like, what do I do with them? So the first easiest is, in this yard, this is showing it when the leaves have been pretty much moved over to where they're going to stay. In this yard, it's grass, and then it's all kind of a bed of mulch with some trees and plantings there. So it's literally all they did is rake the leaves over there. They will degrade, some faster than others, but they are going to give very essential good nutrients to the soil when they break down. So another option, this is fairly obvious, I guess it depends on the size and layout of your property. Literally pick one area and that's where you move all the leaves to. Rake them, put them in like a wheelbarrow, dump them in there. You want to leave them for a long time. You want to leave them for 2 years if you can, because the fireflies that I talked about earlier, many of them need up to 2 years before they are ready to be born as fireflies. So you don't want to disturb it too early. But eventually you will have great mulch that you can use elsewhere. Okay, this is the decorative option, and I call this the Martha Stewart option to make it pretty, but I have to tell you a gossipy story about Martha Stewart. So, don't tell Martha Stewart I'm telling you this, but she, my best friend, spends the summers in Maine in the same town as Martha Stewart, and my friend was on a committee to do a fundraiser for Acadia National Park, my favorite place on earth. And Martha Stewart very kindly loaned her house for the people making the table decorations to put together, because she has a massive space that's bigger than this for crafts. So anyway, my friend driving up the driveway, long wooded driveway and then sloping down to the ocean, was like, why do these woods look different than everywhere else? And she realized that all of everything on the ground had been removed. All the leaves, all the acorns, so it was like pristine and clean. So bad Martha. No, we don't want this. So anyway, this is the decorative option. And basically, this time of year is a fantastic time to do it because we've got so many leaves from the recent storms. You're just creating a huge bird's nest. You're creating a huge perimeter of the leaves, laid kind of horizontally, just in a nice big circle. And then again, you are raking some of your leaves. You don't have to do it for all, but raking some of them and bringing them into the middle there. Again, leaving it for 2 years. You can leave it forever because the leaf, it will get smaller and smaller and smaller over the years. You can add more. This can be where you do it. But it's sort of an attractive feature as opposed to what mine looks like, which I have 3 of these at different spots on my yard. And I will tell you, first of all, it's convenient because I'm not trying to drag things to the curb to have them taken away or cut them down. Anything, dead branches, dead trees, they all kind of go there, my Christmas tree, that sort of thing. And I see incredible wildlife around that area, more than anywhere else in my yard. So these are both creatures that, I see red squirrels all the time, but we're lucky to have them here still. They're not everywhere. You probably know they're in between a chipmunk and a gray squirrel in size, and they really rely, their primary diet is pine nuts, so they need evergreen trees. I've seen red foxes again and again, like I even wonder if maybe there's that's where the fox created a den for babies. And I've seen gray foxes too, which are more endangered than red foxes, but they look like that, but gray. I've also seen, in honor of my friend Barbara Wren here, this is a Carolina wren. Barbara spells her name with 2 N's, but this is the bird version of Barbara. So Carolina wrens are charming, adorable little birds. This one in particular has had 2 broods of, I think anyway, 2 broods of babies right outside my back door. And she hangs around that area constantly around the wildlife area. And I think what they do is they hang out there as a safe place. They're completely safe from predators. Nobody's going to get them. And they can do whatever they do safely, take a little rest. Okay. Another way to get rid of your leaves, or at least some of them, is to put them onto no-mow islands. I mention this because my goal is to have less grass. And so this is something that I did in my own yard. And as you can see, my grass is not very pretty. But just so you know, one of the things I've been doing is when I get dead patches, I seed it with white clover. And white clover is not a native plant, but it's incredibly beneficial for pollinators. And it's drought resistant. It stays green when everything else is brown and crispy. And it doesn't really need to be mowed. It only gets like this tall. So it's pretty astonishing. So my goal is to have my yard be half grass, half white clover. We'll see. In any case, this is what I did. And let me show you. This is probably a better shot of another one. I made 3 of these in my yards as a way of reducing the amount of grass I have. It's the easiest thing I've ever done for the most payoff in terms of like wildlife and a healthy, happy yard. I bought the kind of paint that they mark playing fields with. So it's like spray paint and you just, shoot it at the ground. I literally just walked around like, okay, I want a big circle here or a big oval here, and I wanted that tree in it, and I wanted that big rock in it. I didn't do anything else. I think people will tell you, okay, if you want a little native plant meadow, you need to smush the grass, smother it, make sure there's nothing there, then add mulch, then plant. I literally just stopped mowing. I told the guys that mow the lawn, don't mow there. They already think I'm insane, so they were like, okay, whatever you want. So the first year, I would say it was just kind of tall grass with some other little things growing up in it. And then by the second year, it was this. So this was in September. It's mainly asters, which are native to us, attractive, tiny little daisy-like flowers that are really great for pollinators at a time when not much else is out there for them. And a lot of goldenrod, which does not cause your allergies. That's ragweed. Goldenrod is fantastic for pollinators. And also you can't really tell in here, but Joe Pye weed, lots of stuff has come up in there. So it was super, super exciting. So this is what it looked like a couple weeks ago, because I just put my leaves on top of there. Almost any native plant has no problem coming up through even a thick layer of leaves. They're used to it. That's what they were used to in their forested conditions, so they will be fine. So interestingly, a lot of people ask me, if you move leaves to a pile like this, don't they blow all around? No, I don't know why, but they mainly stay where they are. So this is another way that this is a Japanese maple. Lots of its leaves fall right there. But for the ones that don't, I just move them right into that little circle, and there they stay all winter. And under here is wild ginger, which is an amazing native alternative to Pachysandra or English ivy. And it's just starting to come up. But it has no problem coming up through those leaves. And those leaves, as they degrade, they make the soil more healthy. So the final idea I wanted to tell you was the compromise solution to leaving them. I guess the most perfect thing would be leave them where they fall. Okay, very few of us are going to do that. Second solution is move them somewhere and then let them be. The third is to use them as mulch for your lawn. So this is mulch mowing. Again, you want to do this when it's dry. And it's best if it's no more than, the leaf covering is no more than 50% of the height of the grass. So if the grass is this high, you want to do this if there's that much leaf cover or less. So for me, because I move some of my leaves and I mulch some of my leaves, I do this, I have them mow the lawn even into the fall when maybe the lawn doesn't even need it so much, but that's why they're doing it. They're doing it to get these all ground up. You want to get them to be dime-sized pieces That way they won't harm the lawn, they won't starve the light that the lawn and grass needs to live, but they'll be small enough to degrade and feed the lawn and really give you beneficial nutrients in it. This is a mower for mulching. It has a bag on the back to collect the leaves. I don't recommend that. The whole point of this is leave these tiny little bits where they are so they feed your lawn. That's okay. Okay, so that is basically it. I left some time for questions because people generally have them. But I also want to mention we always need volunteers. We do fun. This was in August and it was humid and awful, so I don't know exactly how fun it was, but everyone said it was fun. We do, joint weeding days from basically usually May through September, and we always need volunteers. We'll train you, we'll tell you what we need, we can assign you somewhere near you that needs help, but it's a great way if you're a gardener and if you like working in the earth. It's a very hands-on way to help our environment.